What's up, everybody? Welcome back, Foxbody Garage. As stated in previous videos, first and foremost, I just want to thank everybody for commenting, liking, subscribing, sharing with your friends. Really appreciate everybody. If you stumble across the video for another build of the Ford Windsor small block, either 5.0, 347, 351, 408, stock block build, they're basically exactly the same engine, just the decks are a little wider. So with that said, stay tuned. We got another 408 build, and today we'll be installing the crankshaft, checking crankshaft main bearings. Hopefully everybody's having a good day, and today is Columbus Day 2024. And we will get it done. So first and foremost, we had the crank balanced 28 ounce. It's going to be a 408 cubic inch motor, and we just final washed the block and honed it. If you look at the previous series on how to build your Ford 5.0, it's the same process. I didn't want to bore you, and I'm going to try not to bore you with this one. So stay tuned. I'll be back in a second and we'll get everything ready. Alright guys, check it out. We have installed the crankshaft. If you want to know exactly how the installation of the crankshaft is installed, you're going to have to check out the other videos. This is not going to be a how-to step-by-step, but what I will do is, when I encounter something that's very rare and I never seen before, I'm going to let you guys know about it. So what I found is that the number 3 thrust bearing, cack and bearing is very loose. It just pops off and pops on with no side clearance, but usually when you put the bearing on, you got to force it on a little bit and this and that. This is just popping on and off. So I wasn't sure. So luckily I have another 351 Windsor stock block with stock bearings in it and everything. And I confirmed that that block does the same thing. So on the number 3 thrust, the bearing just pops off and on. And on the number 3, the upper has a groove in it also, which actually this is called the lower. The cap side is the lower. On the rest of them, they don't have it. Only on the thrust bearing. If you could see the difference, one has the groove for the oiling, which usually goes down onto the block so the oil passes, and the upper doesn't have a groove. On this bearing set, they came with two halves with the oiling hole in it, and I noticed that it's loose. Not loose that makes noise, but it pops on and off pretty easy. And I'll say it again, I have another 351 Windsor stock block, and I checked it, and that one does exactly the same thing. So I'm going to say that's probably from the factory, and we're just going to continue the build. So usually they're a little tighter, but there's going to be 2 halves, and I don't think we'll have a problem with spinning a bearing or anything. This engine is a used engine, came out of a van. It had a lot of miles on it, probably 250,000 miles on it. So I don't see it being bad. Machine shop did check it, and they gave us the go, but I know I'm the last guy to put it together, so I just wanted to double check what was going on, and I did find that my other 351 Windsor block does the exact same thing, so I'm going to say the chances are it's probably the way they're built. Also, I noticed in the bearings instruction, they state something about the flange bearing used in position 3 of this set follows most current listings, which calls for identical upper and lower halves. So I was a little confused before I even checked it. I was wondering why they were sending me 2 halves with the oiling slot in it, and it states it right in the instructions that the number 3 has, the upper and lower are the same. On the other ones, the upper and lower are not the same. The lower is flat with no oiling hole, and the upper has the oiling hole like that. Hopefully this helps somebody. We just got these installed the crank. I'm going to give you a view of the plastic gauge, if I can show you. Yep, I don't know if you guys will pick it up. The plastic gauge, okay? It measured 2/1000, which I am very happy with. We definitely have a 2/1000. I don't know if the camera's picking it up, but we got 2/1000, perfect. And it's straight across, so it's not tapered. Everything looks good. All the journals are like that, so I'm happy. We're going to finally install the crankshaft, and I'll be back, which will be in 2 seconds for you. What's up, everybody? Welcome back. The 351 408 engine build continues. Sorry for not filming every step of the way. If you want to learn how to build a small block Ford Windsor, look at the 302 Windsor build. It's exactly the same. The reason why I'm filming now is because we ran into one situation that the block did not have to be ground at the connecting rod bolts where it passes the cylinder bore. A miracle, I don't know why. We checked the length of the crank. It's a 4-inch crank with a 6/200 long rod, and we didn't have to clearance nothing except a little bit where the oil pump goes, which I just installed. Other than that, we didn't have to clearance the block. The crankshaft box states it's a 4.00 inch stroke crankshaft with a 6.200 long rod, and we didn't have to clearance the block on this 351 408 build. The part number on the block is definitely F4 E6015 AA11. So I checked the counterweight, I checked the pistons to make sure the counterweight doesn't hit the pistons. I checked the rods to make sure they don't hit the cylinder bores, and it seems that it does not need to be notched. I'm pretty confused on this one, guys. Anybody knows? I mean, it's an I-beam rod and not an H-beam. It's a scat crank, scat rods with 8740 rod bolts, cap screw. The box of the rods and the crank are both the right part numbers. I looked it up on their site. The pistons are Icon pistons. I don't think the location of the piston pin on the rod would change anything with the stroke of the crankshaft. So we're going to continue this build, and we'll see what happens when we fire it up. Right now we just put the oil pump on. We're going to measure the pan clearance to the pickup, and we're going to go from there. So with that said, guys, like I said, is anybody ever came across not have to notching the bores for the connecting rod bolts to pass through? I know on every 347 I built, probably did about 14, 15 in them, and always had to do it. My black car is a 408 cubic inch motor, also 351. It is an aftermarket block from back in 1990. It was a Sportsman block from Ford before Dart even came out with a block, or World, or all the other aftermarket companies that you do have options for now. I built my black car, the 408, and the only the only bulletproof block you could buy back then was from Ford, and I had to notch that block too. This one, no notching needed. I'll state it again, I just had to clearance a little bit where the oil pump mounts to, where the block is, and that was it. So, with that said, thanks for watching, everybody. I appreciate the subscriptions. If you're stumbling across this video, hit the like, comment, share with your friends, and we'll go from there. I mean, other than that, I really not sure. So we'll turn it back on if we run into any other snags, but the only snag is we didn't have to notch the block, and we had a little problem with only clearancing where the oil pump is. Other than that, we're good to go. So if I run into anything else that I think is helpful for somebody, I'll turn the camera back on, and stay tuned when we do the first fire up, how it works out. Alright guys, thanks again. Have a good day.